Hello kids, this is Mr. Whistler with your video discussion of the day. And since I'm gone, I recorded what I want you guys to do. Now, with your shoulder partners, I want you to talk about the French and Indian War. And here's a couple of things to discuss when you guys are talking. I want to know why it started. I want the English point of view and the French point of view, and I want to know how it started, and this has to do with George Washington, and I want to know the results of the war. So this is review. We had this lesson last week, and I want you guys to talk and see if you can remember these things we talked about. Why it started, and this is the English side of the story. The colonies had been around for a long time, and they were growing, and many people were still coming from all over the world and in England, and it was becoming really, really crowded. Land, which was very valuable back then because people used it to farm, was becoming very scarce, and people needed it. So the English wanted to expand west where there was more land. They wanted to make the colonies bigger.
I say, it sure is getting crowded here in the colonies. We need more land. Let's go west.
The French side of the story, they were not very happy that the English were trying to move west. The French had a successful fur trading business on the land that the English wanted, and they did not want the English to mess up their business. So they were determined to stop the English from moving west.
The English are trying to ruin our business. We will not let them move west.
Well, how did the French and Indian War start? Well, this is the story about how Washington struck the first blow against the French, and I created a little comic strip to help tell the story. So, government officials in Virginia asked 21-year-old George Washington to go tell the French to get out.
Excuse me, Mr. Frenchman. Would you please leave? This is English land. No, George Washington. This is not English land. This is French land. Go away.
So George Washington went back to Virginia and told them what happened. And the government officials made Washington a colonel in the militia and gave him 150 men to go back and build an English fort called Fort Necessity. Well, while Washington was building the fort, he noticed that 3,000 French regulars were walking by, and he decided, even though he had 150 men, he would attack them. And that tells you that George Washington was very, very brave. Well, he was ridiculously outnumbered, and so he was surrounded and captured. Eventually, they let Washington go back to Virginia. When he got back, he published his story, and he became the hero who struck the first blow against the French. And this is how the French and Indian War started. Now, the third thing I want you guys to discuss were the results of the French and Indian War and why taxes were imposed on the colonists. So, the results that made everybody mad were taxes and the Proclamation of 1763. But one of the results of the war was, since England won, they gained a lot of land, and the colonists liked that. Before the war, these were the British colonists. After the war, they had much more land.
What did we get for winning the French and Indian War? According to this map, we got a lot of land. We like that.
But after the French and Indian War, England had gained a lot of war debt, fighting that war for the past 9 years, and they owed a lot of money. Parliament decided that it was only fair that the colonists should help pay for the war since England had done it for them. So they imposed or created taxes on the colonists so they would be forced to help pay for the war. This made the colonists mad, not because of the taxes, but because they were not represented in the Parliament. This was an example of taxation without representation.
We have no say, Pumpkin. How can they do this to us, my love?
They're taxing us to help pay for the war. That's not right. We have no say in Parliament. That makes me mad. Since England gained so much debt after the war, Parliament thought that they should slow down when it came to people moving west and settling the land. They wanted to wait until they got some rules in place so it could be done in an orderly way. So Parliament created the Proclamation of 1763, which stopped westward expansion past the Appalachian Mountains. They knew that there were Indians on the other side of the mountains, and if people started going west just whenever they wanted, they would end up in another war with the Indians, and England just could not afford this. So they didn't want people going west. This made the colonists even more mad. We did all this fighting for the land, now we can't even go west. I'm very, very angry about the taxes and the proclamation. Well, kids, this is your video discussion of the day. And what I would like you guys to do is I would like you to use my example up on the board and take a half a piece of binder paper, and I want you to draw your own comic. And you have about 15 minutes to get that done. When that's done, I want you guys to, on the top of page 11 in your notebooks, write the essay on the French and Indian War. In your essay, I want you to tell why it started. I want the English point of view and the French point of view. The helps are on the board under my comic strip. Then I want you to tell how it started and how Washington became the hero. And then I want you to tell the results, and I want you to include all three results and why they made the colonists mad. Well, you should be able to get that done in about 15 minutes as well. The kids yesterday were able to do that, and I will check it tomorrow. This is Mr. Whistler signing off.